DeSantis is reminding me of one of those old English nobles who's come down, he's bent the knee at the king, and he's apologising for a failed rebellion, same kind of vibe. But do you think that for Nikki Haley, that's done, she's gone, never to be seen or heard from again? Is this the end for her?
I don't see any way in which she'll ever get the Republican nomination now or in the future. She's not solid on the border. She's said things in the past that would make it seem like she's close to mass immigration. And that is the core vote right now. That is the core issue. I mean, I'm still trying to understand after The Voice why Peter Dutton didn't come out and say, take the offensive and say, we're going to significantly limit immigration. I mean, that alone is a massive vote winner. He's being so cautious, Mr. Dutton. And I think it's a mistake because I'm looking at my native Canada where the Tory leader Poilievre is not being cautious. He's coming out with policies. He's going to cut the CBC budget in half. He's taking the kind of policies that, Tony Abbott should have been even more aggressive and taken. And he's 15 points up in the polls, Poilievre, in some polls. And he's even winning amongst women. I mean, there's this view that if you're not basically left-wing, you can't get women to vote for you. I think that's nonsense. What people don't like is, wet noodles like John Pasuto, people who really don't seem to stand for anything. And I think Mr. Dutton, whom I like, is a bit too cautious. He's going to have to start coming out. You can't win an election only on money stuff. And it seems like the only way to bring the Liberal Party together is on money issues. On anything else, they just split.
Yeah, well, Pierre's a bit of a bad boy. We all know how women feel about bad boys. He's really going to embody that, and women will vote for him. They love to see him causing trouble.
Let me be honest. I wish I knew that firsthand, Alexandra. I don't want to tell you about my litany of failures at university. So.
Okay, well, I can tell you for sure that if that's his goal, then he is really going about getting the female vote the right way. But you did mention Boris Johnson, who has really let himself go lately. They're all getting a little bit panicky of late, and some of these old faces are popping back up. Now, I saw that Trump had a little bit of a go at the European Union. And to be honest, the European Union's having its own little meltdown because the countries in the EU are turning right. They're voting further to the right than they were before, which is still socialist as far as the European Union goes. But are we seeing this a change in politics? And if Trump gets in power, what's that going to do to the relationship between America and the EU at this critical time?
Well, three things. Firstly, if you just read the sort of legacy media, you would not know that the worst performing economy in the globe is the EU. It's been a disaster. And you would also not know that Britain, for all its economic failures, is doing better economically than both France and Germany. And so, there's a lot of people trying to run the line. It was terrible for the Brits to get out with Brexit. But actually, although their economy is not good by world standards, the British economy is better than the two leading EU economies. Secondly, I grew up in Canada. NATO is a deal. The Americans protect you. You pledge to spend 2% of GDP on defense. And pre-Trump, you'd get the odd mention, but just about every European country freeloads on defense. The Germans don't even spend 1%. My native Canada, just a bit over 1%. And a lot of that is creative accounting. They're even counting the pensions they're paying the senior officers. And so I think it's, Trump is blunt and he's boorish and he's crass, but he said, why should young Americans come and die to protect your countries when you won't spend any money on defense? I agree with that. I think it applies to Australia too. I mean, the Americans are spending a lot, 3.5%, 4% of GDP. They spend a lot on defense, and their Navy is stretched across the globe. And you've got these European countries, I think only off the top of my head, Greece spends a lot because they're petrified of Turkey. So they're up around 6 or 7% of GDP. And the Brits make it over 2%. But not even France is over 2% of GDP. And what they really don't like is a crass, boorish guy like Trump coming and telling them the truth.